I'm 22, and I just found out that my mom might not be sick at all, which sounds insane, I know. But the deeper I dig, the more things don't add up. I was finishing my senior year of college on the other side of the country when my mom called me crying. She said the words that cracked the floor under me: breast cancer. Stage 3. Aggressive. She told me she didn't want to scare me, but the doctor said treatment had to start right away, and she didn't want to do it alone. She begged me to come home. I dropped everything. I mean, who wouldn't? This is my mom. We've always had a complicated relationship, but I never imagined she'd lie about something like this. I left behind my internship, my lease, my boyfriend, and moved back into my childhood bedroom. I thought I'd be helping her fight for her life, but it's been almost 3 months, and something feels off. She doesn't go to any appointments. She says the doctor makes house visits because the chemo makes her too weak to travel, but I've never met this doctor. She never has any prescriptions around. Her hair is fine. She says it's a wig, but she's never taken it off, not even once. And the hospital she claims she's going to? I called their oncology department to ask about a volunteer program. They said they've never had a Dr. Fisher on staff. That's when I started getting suspicious. But the real alarm bells didn't start ringing until last week. I overheard her on the phone, laughing, and saying something like, "Oh, she's here now. She won't go anywhere." I don't think she knew I was home yet. I haven't told anyone about this. Not my dad. They've been divorced for years. Not my friends. And definitely not my older brother, who moved to Europe 5 years ago and hasn't looked back since. I wanted to believe she was just trying to protect me, that maybe it was all a misunderstanding, but I'm starting to wonder if I was manipulated. And here's the scariest part. I think faking cancer was just the beginning. Since that phone call I overheard, I've been keeping notes. It sounds obsessive, but I needed something, anything, to prove to myself that I'm not losing my mind. I started writing down every detail that didn't make sense, like how she's always full of energy when no one's watching. I'd catch her up late at night, reorganizing the kitchen, vacuuming the stairs, scrubbing floors. This is the same woman who tells her friends she can't stand for more than 10 minutes without getting dizzy. She's also suddenly very concerned with my schedule. She asks where I'm going, when I'll be back, if I'm planning to move out soon. I didn't think much of it until I realized she's been planting guilt into every conversation. Subtle things, like, "I don't know what I'd do if I was here alone," or, "It's so nice having someone in the house again, even if just for a while." She never talks about the cancer unless I bring it up, and when I do, her answers are always vague. "It's not great," or "We're just taking it day by day." I asked to come to her next appointment, and she said it had been canceled. Then the next one was suddenly too personal, not necessary. 3 cancellations in a row. That's when I decided to check her mail. I know how that sounds, but I was desperate. I waited until she was out for one of her walks, and went through the stack of letters she keeps in a drawer by the fridge. No hospital bills, no insurance form, no appointment. There was something. A printed email for a local real estate seminar, scheduled for next weekend. That wouldn't be weird if it hadn't been sent before she even told me she was sick. 2 days before she called me crying. I stared at that date for what felt like an hour. She made that call knowing exactly what she was doing, and now I'm wondering if the cancer lie was just a way to get me in the house. But why? What is she planning? Because something tells me this isn't just about control. This feels calculated, and whatever it is, it's only just starting. I decided to go to the real estate seminar. Not with her. She didn't know I was going. I found the location from the confirmation email. Some generic conference room at a mid-tier hotel downtown. It was scheduled for 10 a.m. Saturday. I showed up early and sat in the back, hoodie up, hoping no one would recognize me. I didn't even know if she'd actually show. But she did. She waltzed in 5 minutes late, dressed like she was going to brunch with friends. Bright lipstick, heels, not a hint of weakness. She laughed at the receptionist's joke, grabbed a folder, and sat near the front. Not one sign of someone supposedly dying from aggressive breast cancer. I felt sick watching this version of confident, animated, healthy, like the woman I remembered from childhood, the one who disappeared after my dad left. The seminar itself was boring. A bunch of buzzwords about flipping properties, investment portfolios, leveraging your network. I wouldn't have stayed, except I needed to know why she was there, what she was doing. It wasn't until the break that I found out. I followed her, carefully, as she stepped outside with a few people. One man stood out, probably mid-50s, well-dressed, with a too-smooth kind of charm. He was clearly flirting with her, and she wasn't exactly resisting. I watched her hand him a small white envelope, and he slipped it inside his briefcase like it was. I had no idea what was in that, but the way it all went down gave me chills. It didn't feel like a casual, it felt like a deal. When the group broke up and she started back in, I couldn't risk her seeing me. I took the back stairway, shaking the whole way down. On the drive home, I couldn't stop. Wasn't sick, he was hiding something big. She was definitely. I had no idea who he was, but one thing was now very clear. My mom lied about cancer to bring me home for a reason, and it had nothing to do with needing help. She needed me out of the way. And suddenly, I started wondering, what if it's not me she's after? What if it's something I have? The day after the seminar, I stayed in my room pretending to be sick. I told her I had a headache and needed to rest, just to see how she'd react. She didn't check on me once. I think she was too distracted. She spent the whole afternoon pacing through the house, on the phone, whispering behind closed doors. Every time I stepped out for water, she'd lower her voice or suddenly hang up. She didn't realize I could hear enough through the vents. Things like, "She still doesn't know," and "We need to move on it before she catches on." That night, after she went to bed, I went downstairs to snoop. I started in the office, even call it that. It's basically a room full of boxes, old tax folders, and piles of unopened mail. But one thing stood out. Behind an old bookshelf that I swear hadn't been moved in years, I found a floorboard that wasn't sitting quite right. When I pried it open, there it was. A small gray safe, half covered in dust. It wasn't locked with a key, just an old combination dial. At first, I felt stupid. What did I think I was going to do? Magically know the code? But then I remembered. My mom only ever used one combination for anything important, my birthday. It was a control thing. She liked having a number she could pretend was mine, but still felt like hers. So I tried it. 0723. It clicked open. Inside wasn't money, or jewelry, or even documents that made any sense. What I found was worse. There were printed pages from my emails. Not just recent ones, some from years ago. College applications, internships, even messages I'd sent to my boyfriend. Every one of them printed, highlighted, annotated in her handwriting. There was also a sealed envelope with my name on it, and the return address was from a private attorney's office in Arizona. I've never been to Arizona. I opened it and skimmed the first page, then froze. It was a copy of a living trust, with my name on it. I didn't understand everything right away, but the basics were clear enough. The trust had been opened 10 years ago, by my grandfather, the same one who passed away when I was 12. He'd left money to his grandkids, but the funds had been managed by a trustee, my mother, until we turned 25. I was only 22. According to the paperwork, the trust had grown significantly over the years. There was over $300,000 in it, and I had never been told about any of it. My mother had hidden it, and now it made sense why she wanted me home, why she needed to know my schedule, why she was suddenly obsessed with my life again. This wasn't about cancer. This was about control, about money, about keeping me under her roof long enough to do something I wasn't supposed to see. She was planning something with that man, and whatever it was, I was in the way. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, replaying every conversation, every guilt trip, every manipulative little moment since I came back home. All of it suddenly felt staged, like she'd been laying down pieces of a puzzle while I was too distracted to see what she was building. By morning, I had a new goal: find out what she was trying to access, and how far she was willing to go to get it. So I set a trap. I left the documents from the safe on my desk in my positioned so they just visible from the doorway. I made it look like I was halfway through reading them, then left the house for a few hours, told her I was meeting a friend for coffee. I wasn't. I was parked a block away, watching the house from my rearview mirror. Less than 20 minutes after I left, she went into my room. I counted the minutes. 13. When I came back home, I acted normal. Didn't even mention the papers. But that night, I took photos of them, just in case. Good thing I did, because 2 days later, they were gone. She denied taking them, of course. Said I probably misplaced them. Said I was tired, or stressed, or still processing everything with her illness. That was the last straw. I told her I wanted to talk to a lawyer. I wanted to know why I was never told about the trust, and how she could have legally kept that from me. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're not ready to handle that kind of money. I'm protecting you." I didn't say anything. I just walked out, but I didn't go far. I went around the side of the house and waited. I had a hunch, and I was right. Not 10 minutes later, I saw the light in the office flicker on through the blinds. I crept closer, careful not to make a sound. The window was cracked open, and what I saw made my stomach turn. She was sitting at the desk, with my printed signature beside her, a blank form next to it, something financial, though I couldn't see exactly what. She was practicing my handwriting, copying it, trying again and again. I wanted to scream. Instead, I pulled out my phone and took photos. Not perfect, but clear enough. She was trying to forge my signature, probably to access the trust early, maybe even transfer it. I didn't know, but I knew one thing. This wasn't a lie about illness anymore. It was fraud, and I was the target. I booked a one-way bus ticket to Arizona that same night. I didn't tell anyone, not even my best friend. I packed light, told my mom I was going on a weekend retreat for mental health reasons, and left before sunrise. She didn't ask questions, just smiled too widely and told me to take all the time I need. The lawyer's office was in this nondescript strip mall outside Phoenix, sandwiched between a dentist and a vape shop. When I walked in, I half expected to be turned away, told I wasn't supposed to know about the trust, or that I needed some kind of authorization. But I gave my name, showed my ID, and was taken back immediately. That was the first sign something was wrong. The lawyer, a soft-spoken woman named Marla, looked confused the second she saw me. She kept checking her notes, blinking rapidly. Then she asked if I'd already signed the early release forms. I asked her what she meant. She hesitated, then pulled out a folder. Inside was a complete application requesting the early liquidation of my trust. Signed, dated, and notarized. According to this paperwork, I'd already agreed to transfer control of the funds and investment to my mother. I felt lightheaded, like the room was tilting. I told her flat out, I never signed anything. That's when her expression changed completely. She asked if I'd be willing to file a fraud report. She said the notary listed was being investigated in another case involving forged estate documents. I asked her to make copies of everything, which she did, and then I asked one last question. How much money had... Marla looked at her screen and then paused. Nothing, she said. The request is in a 72-hour holding period. She told me if I hadn't the transfer would have gone through the next day. My mom was hours away from taking everything my grandfather. I sat outside the office in the parking lot for an hour, just staring at the ground. Every bit of hope that maybe this was all some twisted misunderstanding evaporated. She faked cancer. She brought me home. She lied for months, and when I didn't fall in line fast enough, she tried to forge my identity and steal my inheritance. And for what? I didn't have the full picture, but I knew this. It wasn't just about money, it was about power, control, maybe revenge. Whatever it was, she didn't think I was smart enough to catch on. But now I was going back home. And this time, I was going to set the trap. I came home the next night, walked in like nothing had happened. She was sitting on the couch, curled up with a blanket, watching some sad medical drama, trying to keep up the act, even now. She muted the TV and turned toward me with that soft, frail voice she always used when she was too tired to talk. She asked me how the retreat went. I said it was peaceful, exactly what I needed. She smiled and said she was happy for me, that it was good I was getting stronger, more stable. She used those exact words. More stable. I looked her right in the eyes and said, yeah, stable enough to stop someone from forging my signature. For a split second, her entire face changed. It was like watching a mask slip. Her smile froze mid-sentence. And then, just like that, it was back. She laughed like I had told a joke. What are you talking about? I told her everything. I told her I went to Arizona, met with Marla, saw the papers, my signature on forms I never signed, a joint account I never approved, a transfer that would have drained $300K into a real estate investment, managed by a man I'd never met. She didn't deny it. She didn't even blink. She stood up, walked into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine, and said, you were going to waste it. I just stood frozen, kept talking, as calm as if we were discussing the weather. She said I wasn't mature and handle that kind of money, that I would have wasted it on a useless startup or moved in with that idiot boyfriend. She said I had no direction, no ambition, and that she was doing what any mother would, protecting her child from her life. She told me the cancer story was just a tool, a way to get me to slow down and see what mattered. I asked her if I felt bad about what she did. She stared at me, then said, I did what I had to do. You'll thank me someday. I left the room. I had to. I felt like I couldn't breathe. That night, I locked my bedroom door and backed up everything I had. Photos, recordings, the forged documents, even the original envelope from her safe. I uploaded it all to a cloud folder and shared it with a friend, just in case something happened to me, because I was starting to see just how far my mother would go. This wasn't about misguided love anymore. This was obsession, and I had no idea what she'd do once she realized I wasn't playing along anymore. The next morning, everything in the house was quiet, too quiet. No passive-aggressive questions over breakfast, no guilt trips, no mention of the night before. She acted like nothing had happened, and I knew that meant something. I started noticing little changes right away. My laptop was unplugged, the charger gone. My journal, which I always left on my desk, had been moved. I keep the pages tucked in the cover just so, like a trap, and when I opened it, they were shuffled. She'd been in my... Again. I checked the cloud account where I'd stored the files and realized she hadn't just snooped. She'd tried to erase me. My Google password had reset. So had my phone backup. My entire digital footprint was under attack, and the only person who even knew what I had was her. That's when I realized something that chilled me to the bone. She wasn't panicking. She was preparing. I left the house to clear my head, sat in my car down the block and called the lawyer. I asked if the fraudulent transfer was still blocked. Marla told me yes, for now, but she said someone, an authorized family representative, had called that morning requesting new paperwork to be mailed to a P.O. box. She hadn't approved it, but she flagged the account. That's when I knew. She wasn't just trying to get the money. She was preparing to vanish, probably with the guy from the seminar, probably my trust fund. I drove straight to the post office listed in the call record and waited outside for 2 hours. Then, just as the sun started to dip, I saw her, wearing sunglasses and a hat like she was in some bad movie. She went inside and walked out with a manila envelope. I snapped a photo. Then I followed her. She didn't go home. She drove straight to a motel off the highway, the kind with peeling paint and flickering neon signs. And guess who met her in the parking lot? The man from the seminar. I watched them hug, like partners, like people who had been working on this together for months. He took the envelope from her, kissed her on the cheek, and they both disappeared inside. I didn't follow them in. I didn't need to. I had everything I needed now. Proof, motive, timeline. This wasn't some emotional breakdown or twisted parenting tactic. It was a long con, and I was done being quiet about it. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my car outside the motel with the engine off, windows cracked, phone in my... I kept playing it over in my head. How to explain it all without sounding insane. A mother faking cancer. A forged trust transfer. Some guy from a hotel seminar. A P.O. box. Stolen identity. It sounded like a bad Netflix thriller. But I had the documents. The photos. The call log. The audio clips. Even the notarized fake signature with my name on it. I had enough. So the next morning, I drove to the police station. At first, I got brushed off. The receptionist didn't even look up. She told me to file a fraud complaint online like everyone else, but I stayed. I kept repeating the same line until someone finally listened. My mother forged legal documents to steal my inheritance. I have proof, and I believe she's preparing to leave the state. Eventually, a detective came out. I laid everything out. Every printout, every screenshot, every photo. I even showed him the footage of her at the post office and the motel. He listened quietly, didn't interrupt once. Then he asked me a single question. Do you know if the funds were transferred yet? I told him no, that the lawyer had flagged it, that there was still time, and that's when everything changed. He excused himself for 10 minutes, came back with 2 other officers. One of them quietly asked me if I'd be willing to sign a formal affidavit and release all files for investigation. I said yes, absolutely. Please. What I didn't expect was the next question. Has she ever done anything like this before? I said no, at least, not that I knew of. He looked at the others, then back at me. Well, she has. Turns out this wasn't her first time. Not even close. Back in 2004, she was under investigation for a similar scheme, not with family, but with a friend. A woman she met through a community group. She allegedly convinced her friend to sign over power of attorney while she was undergoing surgery, then drained the woman's savings and fled the state. The charges never stuck. Her friend died 6 months later of complications. There was no living witness, and my mom disappeared for a year before reappearing with a new job in another city. I was only a kid. I never knew about it. Hearing this broke something because suddenly, this wasn't just about betrayal or lies. This was who she... Not a desperate mother, not a woman who made a bad decision, a manipulator, a professional, and I had almost fallen. The next 24 hours moved like a blur. The detective said they'd begin paperwork to freeze the trust access completely. He'd be contacting the attorney to confirm everything, and if the man from the seminar had any financial connection to my mother, he'd be investigated too. He also warned me that once she realized she'd been exposed, things might escalate. He was right. When I got home that evening, the front door was wide open. Her car was gone. The kitchen lights were on, and there was an envelope on the table with my name written on it in thick, shaky cursive. I almost didn't open it, but I did. It was a single page, typed. No apology, no remorse, just a final jab wrapped in sweet words. She claimed she did it all for me, said I would have wasted the money, said I was drifting and directionless and needed a push. She told me I shouldn't take it personally and that she would have made sure I was taken care of eventually. Eventually. She didn't say where she was going, no forwarding address, nothing, but she did write one last thing. Don't call the police. We're still family. I stood there in silence, holding that letter, shaking, and I realized she never thought she'd get caught. Even after everything, she still believed I'd protect her, still thought I was the scared little girl who needed her. That night, the police called me. They had located. She and the seminar guy were pulled over heading toward the state line. She was calm, even cooperative, said it was all a misunderstanding, claimed I'd signed the documents but got cold feet, claimed I was unstable. But the evidence I handed over, the audio, the forged forms, the timeline, it spoke for itself. She was arrested, and now, it's quiet. I moved out the following week, took the first job I could find, got a cheap studio, and started over. The trust is still intact, safe, frozen under my control now. I haven't touched a cent. I can't even look at the paperwork without getting sick. People keep asking me how I feel. I don't even know how to answer. Relieved? Angry? Ashamed? This was my mother. The person I called when I was sick. The person who taught me how to ride a bike. The person who used my birthday as the combination to the safe she tried to rob me from. She manipulated, guilted me, faked her death sentence, forged my name, and almost got away with it. I still don't understand how you go from holding your kid's hand on the first day of school to plotting how to drain their future behind their back. The hardest part? I don't think she ever loved me. Not really. I think I was just useful. And that's the part I'm learning how to live with. But at least now, I'm living. Not trapped. Not controlled. Not being slowly erased by someone who should have been my biggest protector. I made it out. And that's more than I can say for the version of me who answered her call that day. Update. She's still awaiting trial. Out on bond, living with a cousin apparently. She tried to contact me through an old email a few days ago. I didn't open it. I won't. Let the courts read it. Let her explain everything there. I'm done giving her the benefit of the doubt. I'm moving forward, without her.